From the incredible leg kicks that demolished Josh Emmett, to his devastating kick-punch combo that seems perfect for derailing Volk. These are the reasons why Yair Rodriquez will destroy Alexander Volkanovski. And those insane leg kicks are definitely a threat. Yep, Yair's looking like he's gonna be the guy to end Volkanovski's dominance. Volk's a deadly leg kicker, and those fast whip-like low kicks of his gave trouble even to Islam Makhachev and Max Holloway. But after seeing what Yair just did to Emmett, I'm almost certain the champ's in for a bad time. I mean, we've all known El Pantera's got some heat in those legs, but I'm specifically looking at how well he used them from his southpaw stance. And that too, against a top guy like Emmett. Those things were deadly accurate, and Emmett had no answer for the variety of Rodriguez's kicks. Josh Emmett isn't the same as Volk though, and the Aussie is still in a league of his own. But he fights out of the orthodox stance, and when he goes up against that deadly southpaw kicking style of Yair's that we just saw, he's gonna be at a huge stylistic disadvantage. Think about it. If Volk stands in the orthodox stance that he's so fond of, Yair's back leg and his southpaw stance will align perfectly with the Aussie's liver. That's a deadly body shot waiting to happen. But this isn't all. The leg kicks would sort of just be the perfect counter to that pesky jab that Volk likes to throw. Do you guys know the one thing that needs to happen for a jab to even land? Yep, the guy throwing it needs to step in with the lead leg. We've seen Alexander the Great use that jab of his to constantly control the fight and apply some insane pressure. But unfortunately for the Aussie, Yair has the perfect counter in his arsenal of kicks. Yep, he's got a ridiculous oblique kick that would chip away at Volk's knee every single time he stepped in to throw his jab. I'm not trying to reduce the champ to just his jab, but those oblique kicks would throw a huge spanner in the works for the Australian strategy. Now, if all that wasn't bad enough, Rodriguez's legs are capable of even more destruction. That's right, I'm talking about his perfect counter kicks. If you don't know what counter kicks are, they're basically the kryptonite to every single leg kicker in the game. And as I've already mentioned, Volk's fighting style relies heavily on leg kicks. In fact, they're part of the reason why he was so easily able to defeat Max Holloway 3 times in a row. But unlike Max, who didn't have any choice but to just try and check Volk's kicks, Yair's counter kicks would pretty much just make it impossible for the Aussie to try anything in the first place. Every time Alex tries to throw a kick, we're gonna see Yair let loose a front kick or a side kick to the body while Volk's leg is still in the air. And we've seen him do this time and time again, guys. He's even scored knockdowns with this technique. And I'm not saying he'd be able to knock down a guy as sturdy as Volk with a kick, but the fact is that the Aussie wouldn't be able to kick as freely as he'd like. This is a huge factor, especially when you consider how his jab would also be pretty much useless. I've already gone over how those nasty oblique kicks from Yair would make it very hard for the featherweight king to use his jab. But now we've established that another technique central to Volk's style, his leg kicks, would also be pretty useless. This is insane, because the way Alexander's exerted dominance over even the greatest fighters has been through these two techniques. Against Yair, not only would he be greatly limited in using them, but he'd also be at an extreme height and reach disadvantage. The odds have often been stacked against Volk. I mean, he's a pretty small guy. But what's different in this case, and one of the main reasons why I think Rodriguez is going to take that belt, is because the Aussie won't have his usual weapons to defend himself. Still, his kicks aren't the only things El Pantera has going for him. He's also extremely creative in that octagon. I mean, just look at the way he mixed up his striking against Emmett. And just when it seemed like we were gonna see a TKO/KO victory for the guy, he ended up changing things up to ensure victory. Yep, he suddenly took things to the canvas and submitted the guy via a triangle choke. One of Alex's biggest weapons against any opponent is how prepared he is to deal with their styles. And even if he can figure a way out around the mountain of an obstacle that he's facing with those kicks, there's a limit to how much prep can actually help. I mean, El Pantera is known to do crazy and unexpected things, and you can't prepare for something you've never seen before. And if you don't believe me, go ask the Korean Zombie. That guy was literally winning against Yair, and got KO'd in the last second of the fight. Yup, the same KO that won the knockout of the year because of just how insane it was. El Pantera caught the Zombie with an elbow over his head while he was bending down to dodge a strike. That's not something anyone can prepare for. Still, lots of fighters are good kickers and counter kickers, and a lot of them are also pretty dang creative. So why should El Pantera be so special? Well, the way his skills blend together is clearly unique. Just look at the guy's record. He's beaten pretty much everyone who's anyone in that division. Look at Brian Ortega. The guy was so good, he pretty much had Volkanovski dead to rights twice in their title fight. Well, El Pantera took that beast of a man on in 2022. And guess what? He finished the guy in round 1. Round 1, guys! And that's not all. He also KO'd the legendary BJ Penn in the second round. Plus, he's also fought Max Holloway. And that's really the biggest fight other than Volk in that division, if I'm being honest. Blessed is pretty much invincible, and he would have still been the champ if it hadn't been for Volk. Now, even though Yair lost to the guy when they came face to face, what ended up happening in that octagon was amazing. El Pantera was so good that not only did he go all 5 rounds with Blessed, but he also forced the man to start grappling. Do you realize how insane it is for any fighter to be so good at striking that Max Holloway would have to wrestle? Volk's the only other guy to really even give the man any trouble, so that's saying a lot. Despite all these achievements, though, the biggest sign of what's to come is Alexander's own words. Yep, he admitted that El Pantera was probably the most dangerous opponent he'd ever had. That's including Max, by the way, because the Aussie recognized Yair's knockout power coupled with his kicking. He even knows how his creativity makes him the worst matchup for the guy. I've already gone over how just because of the way Rodriguez fights, Volkanovski's gonna be in trouble. And for him to come out and admit that even as the champ says a lot. I'm not saying he thinks he's gonna lose, but guys, mark my words, Yair's taking the crown straight off the champion's head. Plus, the Aussie acknowledged how tough this was gonna be without even touching on some of the most dangerous things about his opponent. I mean, you can't sleep on this guy's speed, man, because he's shockingly fast. And very unfortunately for the Aussie King, this is a direct counter to another factor central to his dominance, his own speed and agility. Yep, no matter how small Volk's been compared to his opponents, he's always been able to outmaneuver them. Just look at how much faster than Max he was in all 3 of those fights. But what would happen if he went up against a guy that he himself deems more dangerous than Holloway, who also has insane speed? It's not a very pretty picture for the little man from down under. In fact, his speed has allowed him to create the perfect weapon to use against the Australian. Yep, he's got a devastating kick-punch combo that seems perfect for derailing Volk. And if you want to talk about speed, it doesn't get any faster than a guy that can punch at the same time as he kicks. It's as ridiculous as it sounds. This man's so fast, he throws a kick and immediately follows it with a face-breaking punch. Guess what, guys? Volk loves to step on the inside as he checks his opponent's kicks so he can do some work on their bodies. But if he ends up trying that against Yair, he'll literally lunge right into a KO. I can't stress enough how bad this guy is stylistically for Alexander. So from El Pantera's incredible kick-punch combo, which seems perfect for derailing Volk, to the devastating leg kicks he used to demolish Josh Emmett, those are the reasons why Yair Rodriquez is gonna destroy Volkanovski.